The night I was mocked by my ex's new husband, and what happened next. I was sitting alone at the bar, nursing my whiskey, when I spotted her, Amanda, with her new husband, Brad, and his work buddies. They were laughing, celebrating some big deal they had just closed. Brad caught my eye and smirked, and that smirk quickly turned into a full-on mockery session about my supposed unemployment. If only they knew the truth. 3 months ago, I secretly bought CorpTech Solutions, the very company they all worked for, the company where I would soon reveal myself as their boss. But before I dive into that, let me ask, where are you watching from? Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever been underestimated. Growing up in Seattle, I always had an entrepreneurial drive. While other kids played video games, I was busy building websites for local businesses. By the time I was 22, I had my computer science degree and was already knee-deep in my first serious startup. That's where I met Amanda. She was studying business administration, brilliant and ambitious. We connected instantly over late-night coffee and big dreams. We married at 26, young and full of hope. Those first years were magical. I founded MTech Solutions, a cybersecurity software company, and it grew fast. Amanda supported me wholeheartedly, understanding the long hours and dedication it took. She handled much of our personal life while I built our financial future. We were a team, or so I thought. Around our 5th anniversary, things started changing. Amanda became more frustrated with my work schedule. What began as small arguments quickly escalated. She wanted more time together, more vacations, more weekends, more yes time. I tried to balance it, but MTech was at a crucial growth point. Every decision I made affected hundreds of employees and millions in investments. The breaking point came on our 7th anniversary. I was 40 minutes late because of an emergency server issue with a major client. Amanda barely spoke during dinner. When we got home, she told me she wanted a divorce. That moment felt like my entire world had come crashing down. I had spent years building our future, and in the end, she was building resentment. The divorce process was messy and draining. Amanda painted me as a neglectful workaholic, conveniently forgetting the lavish lifestyle my work provided us. She walked away with a large settlement, and I dove even deeper into MTech. 6 months later, I heard she was dating Brad Thompson, the marketing director at CorpTech Solutions. Across town, a year after the divorce, I made a tough decision. I sold MTech. The company had become too tied to my failed marriage. I sold it for $87 million after taxes, and decided to take some time off. Travel, breathe, rethink priorities. During this break, I started quietly investing in businesses. No hands-on involvement, just providing capital and occasional advice. But then I heard CorpTech Solutions was struggling, and they were looking for buyers. At first, I was hesitant. Investing in the company where my ex-wife's new husband worked felt messy. But after thorough research, I saw potential. The company's core products had promise, but poor leadership was holding it back. So, I bought CorpTech through a holding company, keeping my identity under wraps. Only the board and my attorney knew the truth. The first few weeks were eye-opening. Employee satisfaction was abysmal, especially in the departments reporting to Brad and his team. Complaints about bullying, favoritism, and toxic management were flooding in. The very people who had convinced the old owners they were indispensable were the same ones dragging the company down. I decided to observe and gather more information before taking action. The encounter at Sullivan's Steakhouse. One evening, I was at Sullivan's Steakhouse for a meeting with potential investors. The restaurant was upscale, dimly lit, perfect for business. After my meeting, I noticed Amanda, Brad, and a group of CorpTech executives seated nearby, celebrating something. Amanda looked almost the same. Her hair was shorter. Wearing a sleek black dress, Brad was by her side, his arm possessively around her waist. The other men had their CorpTech badges tucked into their suits. I was getting ready to leave when Brad noticed me. His expression shifted from joy to something darker. He whispered something to the group, and a few heads turned my way. I nodded politely, hoping to avoid any confrontation, but it didn't stop there. Brad excused himself from his group and came over to my table. He was all smiles, practiced, salesman-like. We had met briefly when Amanda and I were still married, but this was our first real interaction. I stood up, extending my hand. We exchanged pleasantries, and then the first jab came. Brad smirked and said, "I didn't expect to see you at a place like this, considering I heard you were between opportunities." The insinuation was clear, and the mockery hit harder than I wanted to admit. I explained calmly that I had sold my company and was looking at new ventures. He raised an eyebrow. "Must be nice to live off your past success. When do you plan on doing actual work again?" Before I could respond, he waved over the rest of the group. 5 men in expensive suits versus me in a button-down and slacks. I suddenly felt outnumbered, outclassed. Brad introduced me to his colleagues. "This is Emilio," he said, "the genius startup guy who decided work was optional." I recognized them from CorpTech files. Ryan, VP of Sales, Thomas, the financial controller, Jason, marketing, and Greg, operations. They all had terrible reviews, toxic management styles, and zero idea they were standing in front of their new owner. Amanda watched from the table, but made no move to intervene. Our eyes met, and she quickly looked away. That hurt, more than the mockery itself. The rest of the group continued their jabs. Ryan suggesting I hire a life coach, Thomas offering me a job at CorpTech, and Jason mocking how long my money would last. Each comment was wrapped in a smile that didn't reach their eyes. But, as they spoke, I was no longer angry. I was resolved. Brad then tried to land the final blow. "Some of us actually succeed every day, not just once before disappearing," he said. "Maybe Amanda made the right choice picking someone with ambition." That's when something inside me snapped. Not just anger, but resolve. They weren't just insulting me. They were the very representation of everything wrong at CorpTech. I smiled, paid my bill, and stood up. "I think I should be going now," I said. Brad smirked, clearly thinking he'd won. Little did he know what was coming. The quarterly executive review. The next day, I called my advisor, James Wilson, and told him what had happened. He had been skeptical about my anonymous ownership, but now he agreed it was time for a change. We reviewed everything. Brad's inner circle had been destroying the company's culture, inflating results and abusing their power. Their departments were failing, turnover was high, and complaints about them were mounting. 3 days later, the quarterly executive review was scheduled. I arrived early, as Emilio Reyes, the new owner of CorpTech Solutions. When Brad and his team began their presentation, full of inflated numbers and self-congratulations, I raised my hand. The room fell silent as I introduced myself. My name is Emilio Reyes. 3 months ago, I acquired CorpTech Solutions. I'm not just an investor. I am the owner of this company. The color drained from Brad's face. The panic was immediate. I calmly showed the real numbers: employee satisfaction scores, turnover rates, complaints. The truth was overwhelming. Then came the consequences. Brad and his team, Ryan, Thomas, Jason, and Greg, were immediately terminated. They were escorted off the premises by security, their access to company systems revoked. Brad tried to argue, claiming it was personal. I looked him in the eye and said, "This isn't personal. This is about performance, ethics, and behavior. What you did to this company is unforgivable." As they were escorted out, I knew this was only the beginning. The aftermath. The transformation at CorpTech was immediate. The employees finally felt heard. We promoted Sarah Chen, a brilliant product developer who had been stifled by Brad's leadership. Marcus Johnson replaced Ryan as VP of Sales, and his authentic approach immediately improved client relationships. Productivity and morale skyrocketed. Then, I got a message from Amanda. She apologized for Brad's behavior, but didn't acknowledge her role in everything that happened. I didn't respond. Months later, I ran into her at a cafe. She admitted that Brad was struggling, that he had lied about many things, and that their relationship was deteriorating. She apologized, saying maybe we could try again now that I had found balance. I gently turned her down. I had moved on, and I didn't need closure from her. Where are they now? Ellie? I haven't heard from her since the text. As for Brad, he's struggling to find work. His reputation preceded him, and his past actions cost him Victor. Well, his engagement fell apart after his fiancée found out about him and Ellie. Karma, right? As for me, CorpTech is thriving. Our stock value increased 62%, and employee retention is at an all-time high. I found balance in my life: rock climbing, soccer, and a new relationship with Diana, a pediatric surgeon who respects my ambitions and passions. Final thoughts. Sometimes it's not about settling scores. It's about building something new. True success comes not from defeating others, but from creating an environment where everyone can thrive. So, if you've ever been underestimated or faced adversity, remember, success isn't just about what you achieve, but how you achieve it. If this resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for listening.